U.S. urgently deploys military aircraft to counter Russia. Then this happened. At 4:14 Zulu, the Arctic sky above Greenland suddenly lit up and convulsed. The silence that normally blankets the polar night was ripped apart by the synchronized thunder of jet engines slicing through sub-zero air. 8 American F-35I Lightning II fighters surged forward in tight formation, their exhaust plumes briefly illuminating the frozen darkness below. This was not a training sortie. Moments earlier, NORAD had issued a classified, time-critical order. An unidentified object was moving aggressively toward Patuxent Space Base, and its trajectory suggested intent, not error. The pilots were calm. They trusted the aircraft beneath them. The F-35 was not just a fighter, it was a flying data center, a sensor fusion platform designed to see first, decide first, and strike first. In modern air combat, dominance isn't measured by speed or altitude only. It is measured by information. And the F-35 was built to own the information domain. But in the Arctic, information can disappear without warning. As the formation closed the distance and onboard systems fused radar, infrared, and electronic data into a single coherent picture, the lead pilot prepared to transition from tracking to engagement. His finger hovered near the trigger. That was the moment the sky went quiet in a way no pilot ever wants to experience. From beneath Greenland's ice sheet, a massive high-frequency electronic warfare pulse erupted upward. It wasn't random. It wasn't experimental. It carried a precise and recognizable signature: Russia's Murmansk BN electronic warfare system, one of the most powerful long-range jamming platforms ever deployed. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Link 16 collapsed across the formation. The secure MADL network that allowed the F-35s to share sensor data vanished. Helmet-mounted displays flickered, then washed out completely. GPS signals died mid-update. Navigation cues froze. The digital nervous system that turned 8 aircraft into a single coordinated weapon was severed in less than a second. The fighters were still flying, but they were blind. From Moscow's perspective, this was success. The Murmansk BN system had done exactly what it was designed to do: blind advanced Western aircraft, fracture network-centric warfare, and force retreat without firing a shot. The assumption was simple: cut the data, break the formation, and the Americans would disengage. What Moscow did not yet understand was that this was not a single jamming station. It was an entire ecosystem. As NORAD analysts scrambled to interpret the electronic chaos, a far more disturbing picture emerged. For years, American and Allied satellites had categorized scattered cargo containers across drifting Arctic ice floes near the Nares Strait. They were labeled as scientific research modules, weather stations, logistical storage. Individually, they raised no alarms. Together, they formed something else entirely. At the moment of activation, those containers transformed into synchronized high-powered jamming nodes. Amplified by the unique reflective properties of the polar ionosphere, the network fused into a massive electronic dome. Shortwave interference cascaded outward, swallowing the electromagnetic spectrum across a radius exceeding 4,000 kilometers. Patuxent Space Base vanished from the digital world. The scale of the blackout stunned commanders. Even NATO's E-3 Sentry AWACS, flying support from Canadian airspace, was rendered useless before it could approach engagement range. Dubbed the Eye in the Sky, the aircraft lost data feeds, tracking capability, and situational awareness, while still more than 100 kilometers away. The F-35s were now isolated, and the real danger wasn't above them. Beneath the ice, far below the Arctic surface, a Yasen M-class nuclear-powered attack submarine lay motionless. Engines shut down. Reactor at low output, drifting silently with ocean currents. This submarine was the command core of the operation. passive sonar ranges listened to the distant hum of ship propellers and aircraft vibrations, while remaining acoustically invisible. At the same time, Russia activated another layer of its trap. From Franz Josef Land, S-500 Prometheus air defense systems came online. Unlike older systems that relied purely on radar, these platforms integrated infrared search and track sensors capable of detecting heat signatures across extreme distances. Stealth aircraft might evade radar, but physics is unforgiving. Jet engines burn hot, and in -40-degree air, that heat stands out with brutal clarity. The F-35 formation was suddenly being watched by dozens of invisible eyes. Blinded, cut off from AWACS, stripped of data links, and now exposed to heat-seeking interceptors, the pilots faced a choice no doctrine prepares you for. Press forward blind, or survive to fight later. The decision was swift. The squadron leader ordered an immediate break. Countermeasures deployed. Flares ignited against the darkness. The fighters scattered and fled towards safe airspace. Patufik's space base was officially isolated. From Moscow's viewpoint, the Arctic chessboard had tilted decisively. Greenland now sat inside a layered anti-access, area denial envelope. Zircon hypersonic missiles could reach the region. American freedom of maneuver was compromised. The message was unmistakable. Escalation would be punished. But Washington had already anticipated this possibility. At 3 Zulu, more than an hour before the F-35s lost their networks, a classified directive had quietly gone into effect. Aurora Protocol. From Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, or 3B-1B, Lancer bombers lifted into the night sky. After refueling over Canadian airspace, they did something counterintuitive. Instead of climbing, they descended, dropping to extreme low altitude, hugging terrain at Mach 0.9, just 60 meters above Greenland's ice fields. The glaciers themselves became armor. At that altitude, even advanced radar struggled. Ice mountains obscured line of sight. The S-500 could see high, but not low enough. Inside the bomb bays sat 24 AGM-158 long-range missiles. These weren't legacy weapons dependent on GPS or constant data links. They were designed for denied environments, capable of autonomous navigation, terrain matching, and independent target recognition. They did not ask permission from satellites. The objective was pressure, not annihilation, force Moscow to lift the electronic blockade or risk losing control of its Arctic naval assets. Simultaneously, another piece moved into position far below the ice. The USS Colorado, a Virginia-class nuclear attack submarine, slipped silently into the Nares Strait. Engines shut down, hull coated in anechoic tiles, drifting with currents, listening. The plan was elegant. A pincer maneuver, air-launched missile pressure above, subsurface torpedo threat below. By 6:15 Zulu, it appeared everything was aligned. Then Russia revealed the second layer of its defense. Seismic sensors embedded across Arctic ice detected faint but distinctive vibrations. Engine harmonics unique to the B-1B's power plants. Radar couldn't see the bombers, but physics could hear them. The response did not come in the form of missiles. It was environmental warfare. Or from camouflaged launch rails buried beneath snow and ice, Lancet 3M drones surged upward, not at the aircraft, but directly into the ice. They blew up along the path where the bombers were flying, breaking glaciers and ice cliffs into flying chunks. Huge amounts of ice, water, and debris shot into the air, turning what had been clear skies into deadly clouds. For jet engines operating near maximum thrust, the danger was existential. Ingesting that debris would shred compressor blades in seconds. Terrain-following radars screamed collision warnings. The squadron leader had no margin for hesitation. "Climb! Climb, now!" The bombers pulled up hard, exactly as Russian planners had calculated. The moment they rose above 2,000 feet, they crossed into the waiting embrace of Podlet K, 1 radar, and S-500 engagement envelopes. A radar warning receivers lit up. The unmistakable lock tone filled the cockpit. 40 N-6 missiles were tracking. Decoys deployed. Formation broke. The bombers turned away. The long-range missile attack died before it began. Underwater, the situation deteriorated just as rapidly. As Colorado attempted to classify contacts, sonar screens filled with signatures, dozens of them. Acoustic profiles identical to Yasin M submarines appeared from every direction. They were distractions. Russia had deployed unmanned underwater vehicles emitting simulated noise, flooding the acoustic environment with false targets. Classification algorithms struggled. Then came the sound that froze the control room. An active sonar ping, powerful, close, deliberate, struck the Colorado from behind. The real Yasin M had gone silent, drifted with the current, quite encircled into firing position. For the first time that morning, Washington faced a grim reality. Continued escalation risked catastrophic loss and potentially nuclear miscalculation. Retreat meant conceding strategic control of the Arctic. In the Situation Room, Pentagon planners reached a conclusion no conventional doctrine could resolve. They needed a solution that bypassed weapons entirely. They needed physics. Aurora Protocol entered its final phase. At 60,000 feet, where atmosphere thins toward space, 2 B-21 Raider bombers slipped into Greenland's airspace. Designed from inception for electronic denial environments, the B-21 did not rely on GPS or external data feeds. Its navigation fused celestial reference tracking with gravity-based mapping, systems immune to jamming. But stealth alone wouldn't crack the Russian EI-2/AD wall. That role belonged to Space Force. A classified satellite operating in low Earth orbit adjusted its orientation. Its mission was not observation, it was manipulation. A focused high-power microwave beam fired into the ionosphere above the Russian fleet, heating localized regions into unstable plasma structures. Artificial ionospheric bubbles formed, suspended zones of electromagnetic chaos. The effect on Russian systems was immediate and devastating. Radar energy reflected back toward transmitters, tracking algorithms filled with false returns. Identification systems collapsed under phantom targets. The air defense network didn't shut down. It turned against itself. For 15 minutes, Russian sensors could not distinguish sky from noise. At 7:45, Zulu, the B-21s moved. No alarms sounded. Weapons bays opened. What dropped were not nuclear weapons, but something far more precise. 8 GBU-53/B, Stormbreaker glide weapons detached and descended in complex, S-shaped trajectories. These were not bombs in the traditional sense. They were autonomous hunters, tri-mode seekers combining infrared, millimeter-wave radar, and laser guidance. The mission was surgical. One weapon slammed into a flagship's phased array radar tower, crushing it into scrap metal without detonating. Another severed the satellite communications dome on the surfaced Yasin M submarine, ripping away its eyes and voice. No fires, no explosions, just silence. Inside the submarine, the captain faced the deadliest decision of his career. Doctrine allowed nuclear retaliation if attacked and disabled. His hand hovered over the launch mechanism, ready to give the order. But the ship wasn't sinking, and there was no radiation. This wasn't destruction, it was a warning. He withdrew his hand. The order was never given. By Arctic dawn, Russian vessels were retreating northeast. The electronic blockade dissolved. Pituffik Space Base re-emerged into the electromagnetic world. The United States had won. But the victory carried a price. Aurora Protocol was no longer theoretical. Its existence and its implications were now known. The Arctic was no longer a frozen buffer zone. It had become a contested battle space, where physics, space, and environment mattered as much as missiles. The generals understood the truth. Next time, the ionosphere may not be enough. If this deep dive changed how you see power, technology, and escalation in modern warfare, make sure to support the channel. Subscribe, stay informed, and join us as we break down the conflicts shaping tomorrow before they erupt into headlines.